Right.
Can you guys see it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Okay, so the title of my event is called Music for Thought, a benefit concert series. You want me to show my scope statement again, even though I presented it previously?
That'd be great.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so here's my table of contents,
Mm-hmm.
and then here's my scope statement. So the event was supposed to be held at the Tattered Cover Bookstore, the location downtown. It was supposed to be on Friday, May 1st, from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And basically, the goal was just to have a large concert series by a bunch of different small student groups that would raise money for them to be able to purchase new gear, so like instruments and like they need new amp for their guitar, that kind of thing. So just like a little bit of like experience in a safe environment that high school students will be able to perform with like their parents around and they'll be okay. And yeah, for them to overall, their goal is to get new gear and music literature. So my SMART goals were to raise funds for high school students to access new musical gear within the school year, allow parents a low stress experience will allow students to raise funds in a safe space, because that's a really big issue in the music industry for like younger students, and then provide a safe and effective environment for students to perform and allow patrons to enjoy music and books and seamlessly work to assure that there is nothing being taken from the bookstore experience. The constraints would be the transportation, just because since we are working with high schoolers, I mean, it's usually like split 50-50% who can drive and who can't, and also who's allowed to drive others. So just arranging that could be difficult. Working with the Tattered Cover to make sure that there were no time or space conflicts or restrictions. So I wanted to make sure that we were like following all correct codes and taking all of the precautions needed to make sure that no one else would be trying to interfere with our time and we wouldn't have to have really tight turnarounds, and just make sure that people wouldn't be uncomfortable in the space. And then making parents comfortable with their parents or with their students performing in a public setting, because some parents are just really protective and there's nothing wrong with that. They just want to make sure that their kids are safe, and we just want to make sure that they're safe also and able to gain good experience. So our assumptions is that we're going to allow students to play alone if not enough group sign up. We really want to like encourage group teamwork, just playing, because it really teaches them a lot, not only like musically, but also just with people around them. Um, if we need to play in smaller areas, in like little nooks and crannies of the bookstore, we can. We just need to bring equipment so that'll be accessible. And then if on March 3rd, if there wasn't enough student registration, we were going to begin additional marketing. So like usually when these events are um, advertised in schools, they're primarily advertised to students that are in band and orchestra and choir, but we were going to expand to like the entire student body and be like, oh, if you sing or dance, or like if you want to do anything to like further your artistic stage presence and just get some experience, you're more than welcome to come perform. But we didn't need to do that, fortunately. So these are stakeholders, and just then like labeling of them, the initial one. So the internal was the students, the people who are actually coming in and donates, which can also incorporate like the parents and people that are just like walking by. Employees of the Tattered Cover, associates working in planning events. So that would be my people who are helping me personally plan it, the Tattered Cover, and the possible sponsors. And then the external, since it's downtown, there are a lot of people that live and travel by the Tattered Cover. So those people are affected by it, even if they're not participating fully. Parents of the students, because they're kind of a little bit of both, but I feel like they fall more into the external. Food vendors, people who just want to like stop in and just like see what's going on, and then vendors and volunteers. Okay, so this is my analysis of the like low to high power, and then the interest. So yeah, I just took all those people and labeled them, and I found that my high power, high interest stakeholders in this situation were going to be the student performers, the planners that were working with me, so like the event managers, the Tattered Cover, and then people who are donating because they want to see where their money's going and know that's going to a good place. And this is my work breakdown structure. I separated it onto each onto different slides, because when we were presenting in class, I saw someone else do that, and it just looked a lot cleaner, and it made it a little bit easier to read. So I have 5 categories. The first one is the venue and the tattered cover, and how not only they'll be working with us in that space, but also how we'll be directly working with them, and like how that all plays together. And then the student performers and how they're going to have to register and practice and schedule everything to make sure that they're good to go and ready and that they're doing their part. The food vendors. So our choices of food, and we did choose to have one like special dessert food vendor, because we are also going to have the tattered cover provide. I know that they have a little coffee shop, so they're going to be providing that kind of stuff, and then we'll be taking a percentage of the cut of the profits. But we're also going to be having a food truck that will be outside, that we just are trying to make sure that they're in compliance with like laws, since they're going to be on the street, and just making sure that we have all of our permits sorted. And then parent agreements, which is a big one, because almost all the students participating are going to be minors. So we need to make sure that the paperwork is all taken care of, since it's a school-sponsored event. The transportation is taken care of so that they're safely getting there. It's a reasonable cost, because we might need to have, that was one of the assumptions, or one of the possibilities, is that if we need to purchase anything like last minute, like a month or so before the event, if we figure out that a student needs XYZ, that we can factor in a little cost to make sure that the school's doing what they can, but if there's any left over, that we can like agree with the parents and figure it out. And then also just making sure that they're happy, because if you have happy parents in a school event, it'll usually go pretty well. And then the timeline and the scheduling. So this is all gonna be the stuff that's happening the day of, and just how that needs to function, and just the steps that need to occur to make sure that everything's going well. Okay, and then I have my Gantt chart. I don't know if you guys want me to like open this and read it, but we do. We put like this little picture in here of just like what it looked like. Most of the stuff was ongoing. So that's like the parent forms are going to be distributed at the way beginning, to make sure that like when students lose them and they don't make it to mom and dad, we can get more forms out to them and make sure that they get all filed correctly and that nothing's wrong, as well as allow for that time if we need to incorporate a cost. Also, the other like long lines are like practice for the students and like scheduling stuff with the students. And then mostly everything else, except for like a few little here and there's, are all day of events things. So like setup, tear down, like making sure that everything's in place. The day before, we're going to have like a volunteer meeting to like make sure that everything's running correctly, and that we're moving the students to the right places at the right times, and just making sure that all that's set up correctly. But yeah, so mostly it's all day of, or that really long time frame where like the students are going to need to be doing their part. And then these are my vendor selection options. So for my 5 categories, I chose venue, a food truck, audio visual, transportation, and lighting. We ended up making some cost-based decisions, because really the goal of this event is to keep the budget as close to zero as possible. We're not really trying to provide like a crazy extravagant event. We're just trying to do a good thing for the community and help each other out and provide good music. There's no overhead costs, or no entry cost for the event for patrons. It's all volunteer based, and it's also volunteer based from the students. Just making sure that everyone's just enjoying it and getting a good time out of it, and they're getting experience, and that's their form of payment. So we ended up deciding that we were going to pick the tattered cover as the venue, because they are a very family-friendly atmosphere, and it was a good place to be able to station different groups to play throughout. And also, they were willing to do the percentage cut of their sales for that day with us, which is what we were looking for. We chose the Church of Cupcakes for the food truck, and we were also planning on doing the like percentage cut for their sales of that day. And they were going to be outside, and they have like a bunch of cool kinds of cupcakes and stuff that would just draw the eye of like the patrons that are walking by, and just we were going to put flyers on them being like, oh, go into the bookstore because they're having this cool event. And then for audiovisual, we found that we had all of the supplies that we needed at the school, and we did not need to rent or purchase any because that was a long-term purchase that we had already previously made. For transportation, I found that with like the paperwork side of things, it's much easier to have parents transport students and carpool versus it would to have students drive themselves and carpool with others, just for liability. And yeah, we found that we had parents that were willing to do that. And then also for the lighting, we were planning on using light owned by the school. We went and looked at the space, and it seemed as if there was enough natural lighting that we didn't need to add a whole lot more. Yeah, that was what we decided for the vendors. And then this is I'll just open this really quick. Can you guys see this now?
Yes.
You can see the budget plan that I just opened?
No, link
No,
or
no,
just
no, just the
PowerPoint. No,
beginning
just
of it.
PowerPoint.
Okay, here, I'm gonna.
If you can share the desktop, you can.
Yeah, I'm just pulling it up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. That should be sharing now.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the fundraising budget. We were looking at for the sake of this project, I decided to put a $500 budget. And this was like, yeah, just like kind of like a template for like what would have happened if this was to be more of an expensive event. But we put like some possibilities like in the expenses, like if we needed to rent a tent or something like that, like what we could expect, and then how we could get that back in like the income category of like donations and like sponsorships from the tattered cover if we needed to do that. Just that kind of thing, like just how could we make a situation better if we needed to change it. So that was just what we did. It was just like a simple little template. Now I'm back to the beginning. It's just loading.
Yeah, so sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
I need that.
Cool. And then for the budget analysis, we said that the fixed costs were going to be the food trucks because we weren't planning on that costing us any money. For the most part, we were planning on this being like a community gung-ho effort, like all together, of them coming and being able to sell their food like normal and us getting a small cut of their profits. And we were also going to be putting jars at the food trucks, just for like coin donations, being like, oh, if you want to donate the rest of your change from your purchase, they're doing this cool fundraiser inside, and just in case people didn't want to stop in, that was another easy way for them to donate. Also for volunteer scholarship. So for the students that were also volunteering and participating in the event, we were going to set up a scholarship with the school for a small a small scholarship that they could win, and it would be like more of like an entry thing between the volunteers, like a raffle type thing with them. And then the tent, weather permitting, if we needed that, possible rentals, which is what I listed on like that budget template of just like if everything went wrong, like what would we need to like salvage the event. And then donations from participants, because some of them do like to donate just out of the kindness of their heart. And then the variable cost would be the transportation. So if we had parents that like fell through, or if we absolutely had to end up renting a bus, that kind of thing. And then donations from vendors and just how much they're willing, because we're doing that percentage cut. So we don't know how much exactly we'll get from that. And then this is my risk management slide. So the 3 risk factor categories that I dove into were public safety concerns, which is like a really relevant one right now, transportation falling through, which I was talking about a minute ago, and then capacity levels. So public safety, I was focusing more on like safety and then health. So just making sure that everyone's like in a safe situation, that we're not having anyone that could cause issues, and we're monitoring, and that there's people that are looking out and not just head in the sand about what is going on. And then for transportation, making sure that we have parents available to drive the students, and also making sure that they have like the monetary means, just because like it is downtown and where the school is stationed is in Aurora, so like gas costs money, like just making sure they have those resources, and if they need anything that we can help them. And then also having the ability to have a bus in case we absolutely need it, and then capacity, just because the tattered cover is a smaller space and we want to make sure that we're following all like safety codes, fire codes, and also just making sure that people aren't uncomfortable, because we don't want people to be like face to face like they're in a light rail train when they are just trying to enjoy an event. And then this is the project progress report. I wasn't sure if we were supposed to put it in here, but I decided to anyways. Yeah, it was just talking about what had gone on and what was changing, and a few of the approved changes. This was yeah, it was scheduled a month out from the event, and we had pretty much everything done for the most part. We just needed a few more like permitting things, and just making sure that like carpooling was still set, and that day of stuff that could fall through was like still mitigated, and we were still doing good. And then I put in my personality type page, just for, because especially with my personality type and like the event, I care a lot about the students, so I want to make sure that they're taken care of, and like the parents are taken care of, and everyone's just happy and able to enjoy themselves, and also able to get that good experience in, because it's so important at their time in their lives. So just to make sure that I don't get too involved and too sensitive and into one thing, and make sure that I'm able to like help everyone a little bit instead of overwhelming myself during the event. And then this is my event evaluation link, and just I just put in the event objectives and like the questions, and just posted them separate from the form also. But just making sure that there were accessible ways to donate funds, that it was safe, that they had good ways to donate, so that it wasn't difficult and they weren't running around being like, well, how do I donate to this? Like, I don't understand. Making sure that the parents were confident in their students and the event, and just making sure that they would want to do it again. And then any like suggestions, and if they would recommend it to others, and if they enjoyed the event. So yeah, that's all.